Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Side by Side with the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services, Improving Our System Together monthly webinar. Before we get started, here are a few reminders about the webinar technology. Please make sure you're using a computer or smartphone connected to the internet and the audio function is on and the volume is turned up. Please make sure that your microphone is muted for the duration of the call. Questions can be submitted anytime during the presentation using the Q&A feature located on your control panel. The American Sign Language interpreters and closed captioning options are available for today's event. The American Sign Language interpreters for today are Danette Steelman-Bridges and Susan King-Lanier. For closed captioning options, select the closed caption feature located on your dashboard. To adjust your video layout and screen view, select the view feature located in the top right-hand corner of your screen and choose the view that works best for you. Today's agenda topics include introductions and MHSU IDD TBI system announcements and updates. Our focus today is Profiles in Courage, a year of courage and hope after Hurricane Helene. And we will have two panel discussions, one reflecting on Hurricane Helene and the other about Hope for NC. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Kelly Crosby, Director of the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services.
Hello, Dina. Sorry, that was an unfortunate time to get a tickle in my throat. So thanks so much, Dina. Hello, everyone, and welcome today. My name is Kelly Crosby, and I'm very excited because we have such an incredible roster of guests today with us. So what I'm going to do today is go through some quick announcements. We are doing something a little different today. Many things are happening in our field, and a lot of them are actually quite exciting and quite good. And I know that feels hard at a time when not everything is going well. There's a lot of hard things going on in the community right now. But we still persist and move forward in our field because that's who we are. We're very resilient, and it's all credit to you. So when you get the slides, you're actually going to see an appendix in the deck. And you're going to see tons of slides highlighting some of the great work that is happening in our community right now across North Carolina. So just a little bit different format because I don't want to spend too much time doing those kinds of announcements. And I want to spend more time on the meat of our presentation today, which is talking to our incredible roster of guests from Western North Carolina. But first, I'm going to do some updates. So if we can move the slides ahead. Okay, next slide, please. So many of you know, many of you who are substance use providers or individuals in recovery, you know that we've been working with Medicaid for many years to make sure that Medicaid covered the full ASAM continuum of care, which is actually incredibly exciting. We're one of the very few states that do that. So this really allows people on Medicaid to receive the full range of services, not have to use state funds for some of the levels of care. So this has been extraordinary. There are some service definitions right now out for public comment, and we just want to make sure that people are aware that those services are posted. Those clinical coverage policies, we call them service definitions, are posted. So we really want to hear by the end of the year feedback that you have on those service definitions. Next slide. We, as you know, have been working again with you for the past 2 years on really improving our certified peer support specialists program here, our certification, our curriculum, the way folks can get certified, the way they can get employed, so much work. Again, thank you to so many of our certified peer support specialist advisors who have led this work with us or led us in the work. We do have now an RFA open. Because we are looking for partners in the community who can support 2 specialty courses we want to add to our certification curriculum. One is to have specialty courses on supporting people in the justice system, and also to support peers working in the crisis system. So there is a link there for that RFA. So we ask you to go ahead and look at that because, again, we love peer support specialists here in North Carolina. They're integral to our recovery efforts, and we want to make sure they're embedded throughout the system. So we're focusing right now on ensuring that we're preparing people to work with justice-involved individuals and in the crisis system. Next slide, please. I don't know if you saw the announcements, but we're very excited about a new initiative here at the division. It's called Tarang, and I'm learning how to make sure I pronounce that appropriately. We have a new staff person. Her name is Pooja Mehta, and she's wonderful if you haven't met her, but she has been working on this new initiative. And this is an initiative aimed at supporting individuals in our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities here in North Carolina. So we have launched the program. We sent out some information about it. We sent some information too about a listing session right now for our AAPI communities. This is an announcement about the initiative itself. We're going to talk about our first cohort and the communities we're working with and some of the ambassadors we have supporting the program right now. So please do sign up for the webinar, and we are excited about Tarang, and we're very excited to make sure that we are providing culturally responsive and humble support to individuals in the AAPI community in a way that where they guide us and direct us. Next slide, please. Hopefully, folks have heard that we have launched a brain injury advisory subcommittee. This is different than the brain injury or the Brain Injury Advisory Committee that's required in legislation, the BIAC. Many of you serve on the BIAC. We're grateful for that. That's a very important advisory committee for us. But we at the division are required to create a strategic plan for brain injury services. So that's not just the waiver services, it's the state dollars we get, it's the assessment tools we use, it's how we advertise and recruit individuals to know that there are services. It's how we work with the community and hospitals. So it's a big, robust strategy, and we need to develop a new one. And we want guidance from the field. So we welcome you to the Brain Injury Advisory Council to help us write this state plan and advise us in how we should be supporting individuals with brain injury across the state of North Carolina. Next slide. We sent out an announcement about this, but it's pretty important. We spent a lot of time working on this with our partners at the Department of Adult Corrections. And this is actually a guide that can be used by anyone in the community. We're certainly in partnership with Department of Adult Corrections, their probation, parole officers, their community officers, any of our providers. This is a new information sheet. It's something that you can pass out to anyone who is involved in the justice system, and it explains an assortment of services, reentry and recovery services that people can go to in the community, because we know our system can be incredibly difficult to navigate. This certainly isn't the only thing that we're doing in this space, just giving out a pamphlet, but it is helpful up-to-date information because we're trying to simplify the choices and simplify the entry into services and supports for people who are being deflected from or re-entering the community from a justice setting. And these are available both in English and Spanish, and we are happy to send them to you. So go to that link and we will get you some. Next slide, please. And I think this is our last update before we get into the heart of today's presentation, I think. We are, many of you know that, and we had a presentation here several months ago, that all states were invited to apply for the Rural Health Transformation Program at the federal level. So there was federal funding going to all states, and then some competitive funding at the federal government to provide supports in rural areas. One key component of the Rural Health Transformation Program was actually mental health and substance use services, as well as primary and preventative services, care coordination services, chronic disease management services, innovations in rural areas, technology in rural areas to support healthcare. So a lot of those component parts were involved, but again, it was important to us to make sure that we were embedding supports for people with mental health, substance use, and intellectual developmental disabilities in that application. North Carolina did submit their application. Thanks for all of you who gave feedback and asked questions about this. Feel free to see the application that wasn't submitted, and we will keep the community informed about what we hear from the federal government about the status of our application if we get awarded and how this gets rolled out. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about Hope for NC, Hope for NC. And I'm going to do a couple of overview slides about the Hope for NC program here in North Carolina before I hand things off to our moderators for and welcome our incredible roster of folks from Western North Carolina who's going to share their experience and wisdom with us. So really grateful to have all of our panelists today. So let's talk about Hope for North Carolina. Next slide. So hopefully by now, folks are familiar with our Weathering the Storm website. We've shared this in multiple side-by-sides and in Hot Topics, but I just wanted to remind folks that the Weathering the Storm page is there. Many of the resources we are talking about today will be on that site. That is a site we keep up year-round, of course, because we experience natural disasters at different times throughout the state every year. And these resources are available all of the time. But today we are honoring our friends in Western North Carolina who weathered Hurricane Helene. So on the next slide, I'm going to tell you a bit more about what we call the Hope for NC program. So Hope for NC really has kind of two component parts. One is a federal grant that we got. It's called the CCP grant. If you ever hear us talk about that, CCP, we're talking about the federal grant that we got. It came through FEMA and SAMHSA. And we got this grant in order to provide what the grant calls individual crisis support and outreach. And so you'll see the list of things that we were able to offer with this grant. So individual crisis outreach and support, group efforts, public education, assessment, referral. So our crisis counselors are trained in assessment and referral. But really, their job was to be trained in brief crisis intervention, in assessment and referral, and to be a presence in the community. So we got the money from the federal government, and then we partnered with VIA and Partners in Trillium, and they hired the local staff. So everything I say, really, truth be told, is credit to the folks on the panel today and others in Western North Carolina. So we got the federal money. We do all the reporting to the federal government. We do everything that they say. But really what happens is the incredible crisis counselors that were hired at the local level. I'm really proud of the fact that our partners in Western North Carolina were able to hire and train individuals and have them in the field Thanksgiving week last year. That was a big thing to make sure that we had identified crisis counselors in the field and available wherever, food distribution centers, at churches, wherever, helping out and being visible in the community. You'll see on this slide that as of October of this year, these are how many people have been supported through this Hope for NC crisis counseling program. So almost 4,000 individuals have received individual counseling. Over 22,000 people have gotten group counseling and supports, as well as education about available supports. Almost 30,000 people have had supportive contacts. So like I said, there's individual work, but individuals who support Hope for NC with their logo shirt are at all sorts of community events. And again, I want to thank our partners in the West for hiring and supporting those individuals to be available in communities for when people are ready and when they need support. People in the West have also seen billboards and YouTube ads talking about Hope for NC. Part of Hope for NC as well is our Hope for NC crisis line. We've had probably at this point easily 12,000 calls to the Hope for NC helpline. That helpline actually works year round, but we really advertise it after weather events. hurricanes and certainly after Helene. We have about 900 callers a month, and this provides crisis counseling and support for individuals affected in Western North Carolina, but also helpers in North Carolina too. So it's for people, and a lot of times those people have the added job of being a helper. And that's who we're talking to today in a panel, people who live in Western North Carolina who are also helpers to others, which is quite extraordinary. Next slide, please. These next two slides are kind of the last thing I will mention before we invite the panel to come on. Is in addition to that federal money that we got, we also got money from the General Assembly. So I want to thank them for overall to support mental health, substance use, and IDD. We were given $25 million. To our division, $16.5 million came. So some of the other monies went to Department of or Division of Social Services, Division of Child and Family Wellbeing, and also, why am I blanking? Oh, to our Transitions to Community Living, our TCLI initiative. Again, all for mental health supports, but a lot of those were specific to DSS workers, children in foster care, foster families. A lot of that support went there. So it was still under this blanket of mental health, substance use, and IDD. But for the funds that came to the division, first, the funds came to us, but as usual, those funds then funneled through our wonderful partners at VIA. So I want to thank Tracy Hayes and her team. Tracy is here today. It is a lot of work we ask for them. And so they were able to assess these funds, areas where they were needed the most. They also made their own incredible contributions to the community. I'll let Tracy talk about that as much as she wants to. But they were instrumental in actualizing these services with providers in their community. So I want to thank the providers and community-based organizations in the community who use these funds. We were able to support additional substance use services, so mobile OTP clinics, mobile medication clinics, more supplies for overdose like Narcan. We were able to make sure that we had support to a lot of underserved communities. So we were able to enhance supports for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, homeless supports for veterans, services through federally qualified health centers that provided counseling to individuals in school, so kids in school, but also migrant farmers and Latinx communities. We also were able to give out disaster supplies for folks in peer centers, folks in group homes, people that needed additional supplies, everything from heaters to sleeping bags, to new clothing. We also were able to support things like peer support staffing and outreach. Our peer support centers in the West were extraordinary. They made sure that they knew where all of their members were accounted for, and they helped just daily outreach, supporting them and making sure their needs were met. The VIA team has also worked with an extraordinary organization doing regional healing circles out in the West. On the next slide, we also have additional services. So you'll see some of these. I mentioned some disaster relief and housing. So people had immediate needs that needed to be met. There was additional resilience and recovery support for first responders, and school-based supports and summer camps for children and their families. Lots of education and awareness campaigns around mental health and substance use in particular supports. Specific materials were created for individuals in the IDD communities, people in group homes, but people in the communities, for being able to process and get support through such a disaster. And then, of course, additional monies went to crisis response systems. So we share this with you just to let you know that by no means were these federal dollars and these state legislative dollars the only money that went to Western North Carolina, but we share them in the spirit of transparency and gratefulness. We are grateful that the federal government gave us money for the crisis counseling program and the crisis line, and that the General Assembly gave money so we could supplement local programs. And we're especially grateful to Tracy Hayes and the VIA team for helping to plug these funds and marry them with other funds that were being used in the region to meet the needs of people with mental health, substance use, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and traumatic brain injury. So next slide, please. All right. So as I tee up our panels, I hope everyone has seen the Triangle Business Journal's new article, which is Profiles in Courage, Faces from Hurricane Helene Recovery. Look at that front cover. A lot of those people on that front cover are on our panels today, and I want to thank the Triangle Business Journal for being an extraordinary partner, for showcasing this work. Every time they showcase mental health, substance use, and IDD supports, it's a win for our community. And I want to thank everyone who agreed to be interviewed. So you know those faces. Those are you all, and so really excited. There's also a video, so watch the YouTube video. It's really inspiring and wonderful. One of the folks on the front cover, and he's in the video, is Billy West. You see there on the right side. He's not on our panel today, but I'll probably share this during the panel. But obviously, Tracy Hayes was the person I communicate with most, and she's a true hero of mine. And one of the very first individuals that I spoke to out there was actually Billy West, who was making sure that children in a crisis facility were able to be transported safely from an area of complete destruction to another safe place for them. And that was an extraordinary effort, and he shares that in the Profiles in Courage as well as in the video. Next slide, please. Woohoo! I'm going to hand this over to Candace Sanford, who's going to introduce our first panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candace Sanford. I'm here with the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services. I have had the honor and the privilege to be part of many of the initiatives that we've had here with the division. Since the day of recovery, we have been so grateful and so thankful to our leaders in the West, and I have the privilege of meeting with or speaking with them today for our first panel discussion. We have 4 people here with us today. We have Tracy Hayes, who is the CEO and Area Director of VIA Health. We have Stephanie Johnson, who is with one of our nonprofits out in the western part of the state, Rebuilding the Hollers. We also have Ray Hemachandra here from Golden Moon Circles and Consulting, and he has done a lot of work with the IDD community out in the West. We are very grateful to have you all here. So we have a short period of time and can't wait to hear from you all. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in right away. We also have Kelly, who's going to be answering some questions on the panel as well. So I do want to start with you, Tracy. First of all, I want to thank you so much. I am at a loss of words whenever I talk to you, just because of your leadership out there. As soon as we heard about the devastation that you all were facing out there, immediately the name Tracy began to come up, and I know that you made plenty of personal sacrifices out there, and I have not seen anyone care so much about the people that they have that they are serving. So I'm going to start with you, Tracy. Can you share more about the first days or weeks after Hurricane Helene? What was that like for your team? What were some of the hardest moments that you had, both personally and professionally?
Sure. Thank you so much, Candace and Kelly and the other panelists for the honor of being here today. I'm always a little uncomfortable when we have these conversations. And when Kelly asked me to do the Profiles in Courage, I was like, no, this isn't about me. And I really don't want the focus to be about me personally. I have the great privilege to lead an organization that is one of 4 LME MCOs in North Carolina. And we are really the public system that remains in North Carolina, the public behavioral health IDD and TBI system. And I think one of the lessons from Helene for me and hopefully for lawmakers and others in a position to make policy is that Helene really demonstrated the need for a public system and the need for a system where the people who manage the services for these individuals actually live and work in the communities that they serve. And that's what's unique about our public system. And we are also, because we are all government entities, we don't have any sort of a profit motive. That's not why we do the work we do. So in the first few days, I think it's interesting. For those of you who don't know, I think the universe kind of put me in a unique place for this storm because my family and I relocated to North Carolina after Hurricane Katrina. We lived in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit. So this is actually the second really major hurricane that I've lived through. So I had a little bit of experience navigating that kind of situation. I was very fortunate. My family and I were very fortunate. Well, of course, we lost power and water like everyone else in the West. My house was not damaged. My car was not damaged. We were able to get out of our home. And so the first few hours, it was really interesting because there was no news, right? You couldn't access the news. There was no Wi-Fi. There was no internet. You knew it was bad, but you weren't sure how bad it was. And the cell phones were working a little bit, and then the cell phone towers all went down about noon. And so there was no longer any cell service. And so my family and I said, you know what? Let's get in the car, see if we can get to the office, see if we can figure out what's going on. So got in the car, dog and all, and started trying to figure out how to get from our house to I-26. It was a challenge. Every road we tried had trees down or power lines down. So it took us about 45 minutes to an hour to do what's normally about a 7-hour drive or 7-minute drive. So got to the interstate. And as we drove, I live in northern Buncombe County, almost at the Madison County county line. And so as we drove towards Asheville and got to where you can really see the French Broad River, that's when we began to realize how serious this storm was, when we saw how high the river was and how much devastation had occurred where the French Broad had overflowed its banks. Got to the office and was really happy to see that our office, for whatever reason, was in the one tiny part of Asheville that never lost power. And so our office, ViaHealth's offices, ended up becoming a hub because we had power. We had water there for about 2 days until the water in the tanks ran out. We got porta potties delivered. And so staff just started coming into the office because it was a place where you could get power. We had satellite internet. People could plug in and try and figure out what was going on and how they could start to communicate with their families. One of the analogies I use, when you're on an airplane and you know when the airline attendant goes through the instructions about what to do if there's an emergency, and what do they always tell you, right? They say, put your own mask on before you take care of your child. And that was one of the things that we had to do, was I had to figure out how to take care of VIA staff so that they could get out there in the community and start to check on the people that we serve. So my responsibility really was starting to figure out what was the status of all of our VIA employees. Worked really closely with our Chief Human Resources Officer. We got a text messaging system set up, immediately started checking on the well-being of our staff. We have staff who live and work in some of the hardest hit places from the storm. We have staff who live in Swannanoa. We have staff who live in Watauga County and Avery County and Ashe County and Yancey and Mitchell and Madison, and some of those communities that we were seeing on the news as being just horrifically devastated. So we were really worried about our staff. I was so fortunate to have the support of Kelly and her team and the other LME MCOs. They were regularly checking in with me. What's the count? What's the body count for your staff? Where, have you located everybody? And it actually took us about a week to fully get confirmation that our staff were okay. But in that same time period, we were also beginning our outreach to providers and members. And we focused first on providers who had residential facilities where we knew people lived to see what did they need. Did they need gasoline for generators? Did they need water? Did they have enough food? Did they need any kind of supplies? And my fellow LME MCOs were incredibly generous, sent truckloads of supplies, including Partners Health Management managed to figure out how to get 2 pickup trucks to us with a pickup truck full of gasoline and another one full of water bottles within a week of the storm, which was a huge blessing. And we distributed that to providers across our community. We also began doing telephone and in-person outreach to members. And we worked with the Division of Health Benefits. Actually, this is a great example of using data to use claims data to help identify who were the people most at risk. People who were on an oxygen tank or were their prescriptions about to run out. And so we were actually able to use the data that we had available to try and target our outreach for the people most at risk. And our staff, our care coordinators, our care managers, our TCL, our transition to community living staff, our housing staff, were all actively working day and night to connect with every single high-risk member, every member who was assigned to a care manager, and every member that the department had identified as high risk. So we were working on that. We were working on outreaching providers and getting them the supplies that they needed. And we were checking in with our own staff to see how they were. That was sort of that first 5 to 7 days.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for your input on that. I want to hear a little bit from some of the people in the community. Stephanie, I know that your nonprofit sort of emerged from Hurricane Helene, and that's how you all got started. And I've heard so much about the work that you all have done out there. So I wanted to kind of jump in with you and just to ask you some questions about. Can you share a moment where collaboration with your community really mattered? How did that work? How did you all communicate and collaborate with the community? And how did you adapt as recovery evolved? As things changed, we can never predict. So I wanted to throw that over to you and ask a little bit more about that.
So yeah, Rebuilding Hollers was formed after the storm, well after the storm, actually. We just started as supply distribution in Rose's parking lot. And so we were working with anybody that was bringing supplies. We would organize that and get those distributed. But on November 2nd, God sent building materials. And that's when people were so desperate for those building materials. It was the first time I had really seen kind of panic in people's eyes. After the storm, had been about a month, and I said, "Oh God, you want me to get into building materials?" And then 4 hours later, 100 doors showed up, and so that's when we really evolved into, okay, we have to become an organization that will specialize in the rebuilding of our community. And so that's how we made that evolution. We have tried to always listen to what our community needs and then meet those needs. So we offer different services at our complex. Like we have people can come and take a shower. They can come and do laundry. If it's bad weather and they need a respite, they can stay with us. So we're constantly evolving to meet those needs. We have 581 rebuild projects on our list, with 110 of those complete. 45 are full rebuilds and 17 of those are under construction right now. So that's pretty exciting. And every bit of it has been a collaboration with other nonprofits that have come in to stand with us, that have made donations to the organizations, and that have enabled me to buy the building materials and to hire local contractors to get those projects rebuilt. That's been significant. So we work with everybody. We love everybody. So we're collaborating with not just other nonprofits and other, doing unique fundraising, but my biggest collaboration is my community, because you know, as we're rebuilding in Yancey and Mitchell County, we had over 7,000 structures damaged or destroyed, and of over 1,500 of those are homes. So it's taken all of us to rebuild, and we have to hire locally, just like with VIA and Hope for NC. We have one of their agents here with us at Rebuilding Hollers. They're amazing. So we just are thankful to work with everybody that is on the same mission that we are, which is to rebuild our community.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I have heard so much about your nonprofit. I'm going to be out there later on this week. I need to come by
Come
and
by,
see,
yeah,
see
come
how
by.
you're doing.
I would love to. I'll take you to some projects. Our biggest collab, I forgot about this one, is with the high school. They built a small house for us, and we are almost
Wow.
done. We'll have the certificate of occupancy for that small house in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. So I would love to take you to see it.
That's awesome. And you got the high schoolers to do something. That's
Oh
also
yeah. Oh, they're
that's
building.
one of the biggest things of all. So
They were building on snow days. These seniors will come into school on snow days to build. They're so
oh wow.
excited to be part of the community and help us rebuild homes. It's pretty amazing.
Snow days as well. Wow.
They even
Well,
skip senior day.
oh my
senior
goodness.
skip day. They skip
That is
senior skip day to come be with us and go on Good Morning America even. I mean,
oh
our kids
wow.
are amazing. Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations on getting high schoolers involved.
Crazy.
I'm going to jump over to Ray. I want to hear from him. I know, Ray, that when we talked initially, you wanted to come to us with kind of a point of view from people on the ground, and from that perspective. I know that you have a son who experiences IDD challenges, and so I wanted to bring that up with you and to talk a little bit more about what lessons or experiences that we can learn from in the future, both as a state and as organizations. What are some challenges and things that you feel that we could work on, that we could work to overcome here?
Thank you so much, Candace. I think we've learned some really important lessons about partnership and relationship and structure, and I hope those will continue forward. So when the unexpected happens, that doesn't necessarily look like this looked, that we'll be able to come together in response more quickly than we were able to with Helene. And I want to echo Stephanie, what you're doing. Tracy, I know what you do with VIA. MCOs sometimes have a hard time in the public discourse. I've heard only positive things, literally 100% positive about VIA's response to Helene. And some of our providers, other nonprofits and government agencies who are partners in it, the community stepped up in a remarkable way, in a truly beautiful way. That being said, I wrote down some notes. That's why I'm glancing to my side. Unfortunately, it's in my handwriting. I think a lesson we need to take better account for is how we account for people with disabilities in our emergency planning, especially in those first days. I don't know that we have adequately reckoned with the Olmsted implications of Helene for people with IDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, in supported living. That may also be true for people with severe mental illness or needing substance use treatment or receiving ACT services as well. But for IDD, let's say you have a significant intellectual disability and are only able to live in an apartment or home with supports. We promote living in such settings. Suddenly, Helene happens. You have no power. Your phone does not work. No one can call into you or out from you. You have no internet connection. You have no water. Your toilet, shower, refrigerator, microwave are not functioning. And no one shows up when scheduled from your agencies that work to support you for days or even more than a week. And they haven't canceled because they can't call you, even if you would have the cognitive capacity to deal with that cancellation, which you may or may not have. So you're intellectually disabled. You're my son. My son's autistic and intellectually disabled and 25. And if he'd been living in his own apartment rather than living with me during Helene, he wasn't called till midweek. He would not have gotten that call because our phone was not working here. My phone worked when we were doing relief work downtown. But if he had been here in this apartment, he would not have gotten that call. And that call came on Thursday and said, we're just doing a wellness check. If you need anything, call us back. He would not have gotten that call. And if he had, he may not have known what to do anyway. We know many larger providers didn't lay eyes on their clients for more than a week or even for weeks, not just from personal stories, but also because they came on state calls with Lauren Howard and said it was beyond their capacity to do. Nor did a list of unreached clients go to emergency responders in a timely way, which, depending on clients' needs, may have been needed as early as Friday, and the storm was Thursday into Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday. That just did not happen. So we now still have to reckon with Olmsted in a crisis and what our obligations are, and if and how Olmsted can work in North Carolina. We have to have meaningful emergency and crisis plans that are real, practical, and practiced. We have to have clear protocols for getting people's information and needs to first responders. We may have to regard agencies and DSPs as first responders and figure out what that means. We may have to discuss the performance of statewide versus smaller and more local agencies when our system biases against smaller providers. We may have to require natural supports or community supports as backup in formalized ways. We may have learned we can only do Olmsted safely in mixed design communities. I'm not saying that's true. That may be true. We may have to define in the context of Olmsted what acceptable risk is and who gets to define it. The most important thing is we do this proactively and purposefully, so we don't repeat the same situation, and so we appropriately value and protect disabled lives. That's the main thing I wanted to say. The second thing I want to say is much faster than that, which is that my son Nicholas and I did relief work. We did it for RSAA, for ABCCM, for MANA. My son did it for months. But in those first days, we were loading and unloading trucks, delivering to neighborhoods, delivering meals from World Central Kitchen eventually, and including for RSAA, as I mentioned, which is a Black community organization in Asheville and Buncombe County. I'm on RSAA's board. Our executive director, her name is Tori White Garrison, directed resources to all areas in need, including Hispanic and Latino neighborhoods, blocks, mobile park communities. 5 or 6 days in, we were delivering to those communities, reaching Hispanic neighborhoods that had not received any supplies at all before then: water, food, diapers. And I just wonder what that would look like right now, in a crisis right now. Would Latino and Hispanic people be afraid to come to their door, even for essentials, or to have strangers driving in their neighborhoods? That also has some concern about how Latino and Hispanic people would use or not use the Hope for NC helpline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. I wish that we had some time to sit and address this right now, but please, we do want to talk more about this in future conversations. So we will, for now, we're going to kick our next panel off with Aquila. But I did want to just take the opportunity to say thank you so much, Ray, and thank you all. Thank you all so much. And we will definitely continue this conversation. This is not our last one. So thank you all so much for being here today. And Aquila, I'm going to kick it right over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Next slide, please. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone to the Hope for NC team that we're going to join us during today's panel. First, we're going to be joined by Tracy Kennedy from the Real Crisis Call Center. We also have Lisa DeChances, the Chief Clinical Officer of Mental Health, Wellness, Treatment, and Recovery. Tegan Brown from the Partners Health, ACA, that's a care and alternative management team. Kristen Watson from the Mountie Project, Jason Seidel from Project, Aaron Cotter and Stacy Sorrell from Via Health, and Ken Watson-Pitts from Heroes Among Us. So welcome and thank you for joining us, everyone. First, let me give you a little recap. Hurricane Helene marked an unprecedented disaster for Western North Carolina, leaving behind not only physical destruction, but also a profound impact on the mental health and well-being of countless individuals. In response, on September 28th, 2024, the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services ensured Hope was ready to support the emotional and psychological needs of those affected. Today, we're going to hear from the dedicated members of the Hope for NC team as they share insights into the program, accomplishments achieved, key lessons learned, and the road ahead towards the long-term recovery. So to begin, we are honored to welcome Tracy Kennedy from the 988 Real Crisis Call Center team to today's panel. During Hurricane Helene, Tracy and her team played a critical role in providing immediate, compassionate care to those impacted, serving as a vital lifeline for individuals navigating some of their most difficult moments. Thank you. Please join me in welcome Tracy to the call.
So much for such a wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Tracy. Tracy, can you share with us, please, what are some of those first days or weeks after Hurricane Helene and what it felt like for you or your team?
Well, first of all, we were well informed that the disaster was coming because DHH really reached out to us and said, be prepared. This is what's going on. So a good part about it was that we started our training of our staff. That was very, very important, is that all of our staff was well trained and was ready, willing, and able to assist during a disaster. So anytime a disaster is predicted in North Carolina, whether or not it's in the East, West, Piedmont, we start training right away. And we're a 24-hour program, so I have 3 different teams that we start training. And just as a reminder, some have taken the training, 4 times, but we want to make sure that our team is ready to serve those in disasters, that right away, DHHS was pulling together our meetings of all the leaders, such as the LMEs, the community agencies, so that we're well prepared. Once it hit, obviously, the phones go down. Oh, we're a hotline. So we did not see a spike in calls until November 1st. That was our first spike in calls. So we know that the phones were get up and running, and people were reaching out so that they understood what services were provided, where they could go. It's always wonderful to tell them the wonderful website as far as Weathering the Storm and Ready NC, but when they don't have internet connection, that's not very helpful. So we had those sites up at all times to be able to answer any questions for anyone that was calling in, to let them know where shelters were, where distribution centers were, working with the LMEs so that we could communicate where the calls were coming from, what areas. Learned a lot about the areas in the West. Even though we're a state organization, we are not. We are located more in the East. So I definitely got a lot of geographical information on different counties and areas and how things were impacted. The LMEs were able to inform us of that, constantly being communicated with. We really appreciate that partnership of letting us know what services were out there, what was open, what was closed, how to get from location to location, because roads were closed and we're sitting here trying to help people get to services. So a lot of training. So we always like that, and a lot of communication between professionals. I'm sorry if I'm talking so quickly. Let me back off. I was already warned by this. And so I think it was all hands on deck. And from like the September 25th, all hands were on deck, and we were real excited. My team was excited to help those that were in need during the disaster. I hope that answers your question.
Akila, you're on mute.
Thank you. Can you tell us briefly what are some of the things that your call centers continue to do to support the healing and resilience in the community?
Well, like advertised, we are a mental health support hotline. And we know that boots on the ground were there to help with food distribution, with materials. I mean, amazing work in the West. Absolutely amazing. I have weathered a lot of storms, and I am just amazed at how, like they say, those in the mountains, they pull together. It is all about community. What we were here for was a lot of the mental health anxiety, to be there to support people through a lot of anxiety. We worked a lot with some interpersonal issues that people were suffering. They had, they were going to get their food, they had their shelters, they had this, but just the anxiety of the unknown was extremely high. We worked a lot with interpersonal problems. Families were stuck together, as we know, during COVID taught us, but disasters teach us real quick about how much anxiety there is. You can't answer the question to when your child says, "When do I get to go back to school?" or "When can I go see my friends?" And so we worked a lot, and we still continue to. Our call volume for Hope for NC is up almost 50% in the last year of individuals calling in to discuss a lot of anxiety and a lot of interpersonal issues that they just want to talk through, kind of get a game plan together.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy. Next, we're excited to welcome our dynamic group who's been very instrumental in supporting communities throughout our Hope for NC partnership with our Partners Health Management team. So our next group of guests is going to be Tegan Brown from A Caring Alternative, Kristen Watson from the Mountain Aid Project, Kim Watson Pitts from Heroes Among Us, and Jason Seidel from Project Your Home. Their work has been a vital part in helping individuals and families rebuild and heal in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. We're very grateful to have them here with us today to share their insights and experiences. Please help me in welcoming Tegan, Kristen, Kim, and Jason.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tegan. So Tegan, what were some of the hardest moments that your team faced during the recovery, personally or professionally, and how did you manage to get through them?
I'm going to take an answer and then I'm going to pass to Kristen and Jason. So I'm going to echo what Tracy said earlier. It was, it was very difficult locating our staff. And we too, at A Caring Alternative, were about a week in before we heard from all staff. I actually had one that was in Rutherford County that was rescued from the top of her house, and she asked me if I could come pick her up to get her. And actually at the time I couldn't even get away from my house to go get her because of the trees being down and things. And again, that was early on. I'm going to pass to Kristen and Jason.
Yeah, so I think for us, it's a matter of obviously the things that we dealt with on a personal level, trees and houses and flooding and all those things. But I think the biggest and most difficult things for us were probably the losses that were suffered that we were directly, I guess, connected to, search and rescue teams that were pulling bodies out of the rivers. We were personally connected to all 1,000 troops of the National Guard, 101st and 82nd were on our campus. We hosted them so that they could support Western North Carolina. And so we had daily reports as to the things that they were dealing with. But when you've got 6'4", 280-pound firefighters that are standing in front of you crying their eyes out because they were pulling children out of rivers, that's a difficult thing. And their losses were our losses. And the other difficult thing is our losses are even continuing today. We're dealing with people. The heavy lifting is right now, right? Feeding and housing, but also dealing with the mental health aspect, the fallout, the traumas that have been experienced by people that is almost like a combat zone and folks that aren't prepared for that. And so, we get reports, unfortunately, of people that just don't make it, people that choose to take their lives or fall back into addiction. That's the hardest things, and it's still happening every single day. It's not a was, it's a now. It's an is.
Certainly doing continue to support healing and resilience out in the community.
Definitely.
What are some of the things that you're currently doing? Some of the new programs that you have?
We broke up just a little bit, Akila. It might have been on my end.
Is this
Go
better?
ahead. Yes. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so some of the things that we're currently doing, there's actually a lot, right? Because we're a group of 12 nonprofits that have come together and to effectively stay on our own lanes and be able to live where our proficiencies and passions are most effective. And so we have an extensive book, just like Stephanie, who we've worked with in the past, of folks that are unhoused. And so rebuilding and providing housing for folks. We still have, our groups are feeding hundreds of people every single week. We have obviously the Hope for NC outreach, providing cars, providing bridges, rebuilding graveyards, just lots of things that we're doing. We're still extremely active 7 days a week, all hours of the day, making these things happen. But long-term recovery, and then we've got 20% of our focus is in the resiliency and creating plans for the next event. And what does the first 72 hours look like? And we've got really what we feel is a comprehensive plan to be able to solve some of the problems, communications and things like that we dealt with those first hours.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, and thank you very much to the Partners team. A little short on time, so I'm just trying to move things along, and I want to make sure I give everyone a chance to speak about all the great work that you have done. So next, we're going to check in with our VIA Health team, and that is our wonderful team of Erin Cotter and Stacy Sorrell. Throughout the response to Hurricane Helene, Erin and Stacy demonstrate unwavering commitment to the emotional well-being and recovery of the communities across Western North Carolina. So thank you very much to Erin and Stacy for both being here. The first question that I want to ask you both is, were there any unexpected partnerships or community efforts that emerged that surprised you in a good way?
Thanks, Akila. Yes, we have been consistently surprised at the collaborations and the partnerships that spring up as the teams go out into the communities. And I think Erin's going to share some specific examples of those partnerships.
Excuse me. Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you guys so much. I think some of our partnerships are the partnerships that we see here in this panel alongside of us with partners and a caring alternative with Real Crisis. But it does really feel like some of the places that we go, we really are welcomed. Some of our key partnerships really are with the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians in Jackson and Swain counties, Swannanoa Grassroots Alliance, Ash, Buncombe, Henderson, Mitchell, all of the Yancey, Avery, LTRGs. We have really loved our partnership with Stephanie. We really loved our partnerships with Food Connection. One of the ways that we've really come together to work together has been with food as a connection. And so that's really been something special. And it's something that when we think about future disasters, we also think about how we leverage food resources to understand what it is that people need and how we're outreaching them to take care of all of their needs.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Are there any quick lessons learned that you want to share with the group before I turn it back over to Director Crosby?
Well, we learned that planning is essential and you can never plan too much. You need probably a plan A, B, C, D, and E. And Erin, please add to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the biggest things that we have learned that local ownership is really what drives recovery. So the external support is expected and anticipated, but the true recovery really relies on the local community taking the responsibility. And so our effective disaster responses really require empowering local leaders, residents, and networks to lead rebuilding and ongoing support efforts. And Hope for NC and the partner organizations we worked with have served as connectors, not replacements, ensuring that the communities have the tools, the resources, and the guidance to sustain recovery long-term for whatever might come next.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again to all of our panelists for sharing your time, your expertise, and your heart with us today. And with that, I will turn it back over to Director Crosby to continue the conversation.
Thanks, Akila, and thank you to our panelists. Again, we know we tried to cram a lot into an hour. So I just want to thank all the folks for coming on, even just for a chance for our audience to get to see your face and to hear from you for a few minutes. I encourage everyone to read the Triangle Business Journal Profiles in Courage and watch the video. And I think the final words from Aaron were really powerful. So I will just echo them in my own way, which is the local community is extraordinary. And really, we wanted to honor them today, to lift up some of the voices. And we are here to support that local infrastructure and those local folks who do amazing work every day. And we're just extraordinary during Helene and through the recovery process. So just want to thank all of them for joining us today. And now I'm going to turn things over to Dina just to wrap us up with a little bit of housekeeping. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kelly. If we did not get an opportunity to answer your question during the webinar, questions and feedback are always welcome at bhidd.helpcenter@dhhs.nc.gov. The recording and presentation slides for today's event will be posted on our Community Engagement and Training webpage. For more information and resources, stay connected with DMH DDSUS by attending our monthly side-by-side webinars and joining our mailing list. The links are included in the chat box. There will be a brief survey following today's webinar, and we'd appreciate your time completing it. Our next side-by-side webinar is scheduled for Monday, January 5th from 2 to 3. We look forward to seeing you then. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for attending.